Hey, everybody. You may have heard the expression, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Apparently, Voltaire is the one who came up with this idea. And it came to my mind this week in Daf Yomi, where there's a discussion as to what type of teacher you should hire. There's two different types of teachers. One teacher, he'll cover a lot of ground, but at a certain expense. Meaning, if a kid makes a particular mistake, he won't be on his case. He won't correct him for every little mistake that he makes, and that way they'll be able to cover more material. On the other hand, you'll have a teacher who will be very, very particular of every little detail that every child in the classroom will mention, and as a result, they won't cover as much ground. So who do you hire? So Rava, his perspective is hire the teacher who will cover more ground, even at the expense of the particulars and the perfection of every student giving every detail right. Rev Dimi, of course, disagrees and has a different perspective and says, no, hire the teacher who will be very exacting on his students at the expense of not covering as much material. They each give justifications for their perspectives. Rafa says, you're not the be-all and end-all teacher over here. He'll have other teachers. As he gets older and he experiences things and learns things, he'll see the mistake, he'll correct the mistake, so don't get so hung up on it right now. He's just a kid. Rev Dimi, on the other hand, says, no, once you make a mistake, we know when you do something when you're young, you make a mistake, you have a bad habit when you're really, really young, that's going to stick with you. That's hard to break out of. And so therefore, they each have their different perspectives. So who's right over here? Interestingly, the Gemara does not give us a conclusion. A lot of times when there's a machloket, a difference of opinion, they'll give us a conclusion, not over here. And it expresses the idea elsewhere in the Talmud about differences of opinion, where it says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Both these and those are the words of the living God. There's no right or wrong over here. There's no 100% right, 100% wrong. They both have merits and they both have flaws. Each perspective has a strength. Rava has a very good point. Don't get so hung up. Let's cover material over here. He'll learn what the right thing is later on. Rav Dimi also has a very good point. But if he has a bad habit right now and he incorrectly learns it, therefore it'll stick with him the whole time. He actually brings an example from the Tanakh with King David's general making a mistake and doing something wrong based on something that he learned incorrectly as a young child. And so both of them have their strengths and weaknesses, both arguments. Interestingly enough, I remember as a kid, my Hebrew school teacher, Mr. Sugar, and when I was learning my bar mitzvah, there was this one word I had a lot of difficulty with because it had two singing notes on the one word. And he was super patient with me. And we went over and over and over and over it again till I got it right. So he took the Rafa perspective. On the other hand, he sometimes took the Rev Dimi perspective, because later on, as I grew older and I heard my bar mitzvah parsha being read by other people later on, I used to go, there were other words, there were other things where wait a second, that doesn't sound familiar. And I would check and I realized, what I did way back then, and when I said my bar mitzvah, wasn't the right way. So I guess he let certain things slide and let them pass. So each has its strengths, each has its weaknesses. The bottom line is, as a parent, it's a balancing act. You got to know when to be on your kid's case about something and be very particular and very exact and make sure they do it right, because this is going to set their pattern for the rest of their life. And on the other hand, you got to know when to let things slide, let back off. They'll learn about this later on and not be over oppressive on every little thing and be so particular on everything where it's just so overwhelming for the kid. It's like, leave me alone, get off my case, they'll rebel, back off. And so parenting, teaching, children, adults, makes no difference. There's that balancing act of these two opinions of Rav and Rav Dimi, of when to be really particular and exact on every detail and when to let it slide, and we'll get it right a little bit further down the line. Have a good Shabbat.